The year 2347. The universe was a vast and unpredictable place, filled with wonders and dangers in equal measure. On the barren, desolate moon orbiting the planet Selvaris, an unexpected event unfolded that would set the stage for a conflict that would engulf multiple civilizations. A small ralar scout ship plummeted from the sky, its hull engulfed in flames. Inside Tiara, a young ralar girl with iridescent blue skin and luminescent eyes, struggled to maintain control. Alarms blared, and the ship shuddered violently as it broke through the moon's thin atmosphere. The crash was catastrophic. The ship skidded across the rocky surface, leaving a trail of twisted metal and debris. When the dust finally settled, the craft lay in ruins. Tiara, disoriented and injured, crawled from the wreckage. Her head throbbed and her vision blurred, but she knew she had to move. The hostile environment offered no solace, and the likelihood of rescue from her people seemed slim. As she stumbled away from the crash site, Tiara's thoughts were a jumble of fear and desperation. Her mission had been critical, and now it seemed doomed to fail. Her people, the ralar, were in grave danger, and she was their only hope. Miles away, Sergeant Ethan Kane of the United Earth Forces was on a routine patrol mission. The barren moon held little of interest, but protocols demanded regular sweeps for any signs of activity. As his small recon ship, the Pathfinder, skimmed the surface, an alert flashed on his console, an unknown energy signature, not far from his current position. Curiosity piqued. Ethan altered course and headed towards the source of the signal. As he approached, he saw the plume of smoke rising from the crash site. His training kicked in, and he landed his ship a safe distance away before proceeding on foot. What he found was unlike anything he had ever seen. Amidst the twisted wreckage of the alien craft, a figure moved, an alien girl, clearly in distress. Ethan's first instinct was to help, but years of military training and countless encounters with hostile extraterrestrial species made him cautious. He approached slowly, hands raised in a non-threatening gesture. "Hey there," he called out, his voice calm and steady. "I'm here to help. Are you okay?" Tiara looked up, her luminous eyes filled with fear and uncertainty. She didn't understand his words, but sensed the kindness in his tone. Weak and exhausted, she collapsed, unconscious at his feet. Ethan wasted no time. He gently lifted Tiara and carried her back to his ship, all the while wondering what chain of events had led her to this desolate moon, and what dangers might follow. Back on his ship, Ethan secured Tiara in the medical bay and ran a series of diagnostics. The advanced medical AI quickly assessed her injuries, bruises, a mild concussion, and signs of severe fatigue. As the ship's systems worked to stabilize her condition, Ethan sent a priority message to his commanding officer, Captain Sarah Drayton, detailing the situation. Captain Drayton was a seasoned leader, known for her strategic mind and ironclad resolve. Her holographic image flickered to life on Ethan's console, her expression stern. "Sergeant Kane, explain the situation," she ordered. Ethan recounted the crash and his discovery of Tiara. "I believe she needs our help, Captain. She seems to be in trouble, and she could have valuable information about the ralar and whatever threat they might be facing." Captain Drayton considered this. "Bring her aboard the Horizon. We'll assess her condition and decide our next steps from there. Proceed with caution, Sergeant. We don't know if this is a trap." Acknowledging her command, Ethan set a course for the Horizon, a state-of-the-art warship stationed nearby. As they approached, the ship's sleek lines and formidable weaponry loomed large in the viewport. The Horizon was a symbol of humanity's strength and technological prowess, but it also represented the complexities of interstellar politics and warfare. Upon docking, Ethan carried Tiara to the Horizon's infirmary, where Dr. Elena Garcia, the ship's chief medical officer, took over. "She's stable for now," Dr. Garcia reported after a thorough examination, "but she needs rest and time to recover." Captain Drayton joined them, her eyes narrowing as she studied the unconscious alien. "What do we know about her?" "Not much yet, Captain," Ethan admitted, "but I have a feeling she's important. She mentioned the ralar and something about a threat before she passed out." Drayton nodded. "Keep me updated. We'll need to decide our next steps once she's conscious and can communicate." As Tiara rested, Ethan took the opportunity to delve into the ship's archives, searching for any information on the Ralzar. What he found was limited but intriguing. The Ralzar were known to be an advanced and peaceful species, with a culture deeply rooted in knowledge and exploration. However, recent reports suggested they had been retreating from their usual exploratory missions, indicating they might be facing some unknown threat. Meanwhile, tensions aboard the Horizon began to rise. Some crew members were wary of the alien presence, fearing it could be a prelude to an attack or another complication in their already complex mission. Among the most vocal was Lieutenant Marcus Hayes, a seasoned officer with a deep-seated distrust of aliens. "Captain, we can't just take in every stray alien we come across," Hayes argued during a briefing. "This could be a ploy to infiltrate our ship or gather intelligence." Drayton held up a hand to silence him. "I understand your concerns, Lieutenant, but we need more information before making any decisions. Until we know more about her and her mission, we proceed with caution, but also with compassion." As days passed, Tiara began to recover. When she finally regained consciousness, Ethan was by her side. Using a translator device, he attempted to communicate. "Tiara, can you understand me?" he asked gently. Tiara nodded weakly. "Yes, thank you. My name is Tiara. I need to speak with your leaders. My people are in grave danger." Ethan relayed her message to Captain Drayton, who agreed to a meeting. In the briefing room, Tiara recounted her story, her voice trembling with urgency. "My people, the Ralzar, are being hunted by a race called the Crawl. They seek to enslave us and use our technology for their own purposes. I was sent to find allies, to seek help before it's too late." Captain Drayton listened intently, weighing the risks and implications. "And why should we trust you, Tiara? How do we know this isn't a trap?" Tiara's eyes filled with tears. "I have nothing to offer but my word and my plea for help. If you abandon us, the Crawl will not stop with my people. They will come for you too." The room fell silent as Captain Drayton considered her options. The decision to help Tiara and her people could have far-reaching consequences, but the threat posed by the Crawl was too significant to ignore. "All right, Tiara," Drayton said finally. "We will help you. But understand this. If this is a trap, if you betray us, the consequences will be dire." Tiara nodded, relief washing over her. "Thank you. I promise I will not betray your trust." With the decision made, preparations began for the mission to aid the Ralzar. The crew of the Horizon braced themselves for the challenges ahead, knowing that their actions could determine the fate of entire civilizations. The Horizon set a course for the Ralzar homeworld, but their journey was far from peaceful. Unbeknownst to them, a Crawl scout ship had been monitoring their movements since the crash. The Crawl, ruthless and cunning, were determined to capture Tiara and prevent any alliance that could thwart their plans. As the Horizon approached the edge of known space, the crew remained vigilant. Ethan spent most of his time with Tiara, learning more about her people and the dire situation they faced. Tiara's descriptions of the Crawl sent chills down his spine. They were a militaristic race, driven by a desire for conquest and domination, and their technology was both advanced and brutal. One evening, as Ethan and Tiara sat in the mess hall, alarms blared throughout the ship. "All hands to battle stations," Captain Drayton's voice commanded over the intercom. "Crawl ships inbound." Ethan and Tiara exchanged a worried glance before rushing to their stations. The bridge was a flurry of activity as the crew prepared for combat. The view screen displayed a swarm of Crawl vessels closing in on their position. "Incoming fire!" Lieutenant Hayes shouted as the first volley of plasma bolts streaked towards the Horizon. The ship shuddered under the impact, but the shields held. Captain Drayton barked orders, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to the chaos around her. "Return fire. Target their lead ship." The Horizon's advanced weaponry lit up the darkness of space, beams of energy lancing out to strike the Crawl ships. The battle was fierce, with both sides exchanging heavy fire. Despite their technological superiority, the Horizon was outnumbered and outmaneuvered. Ethan's tactical mind raced as he analyzed the battlefield. "Captain, if we can disable their command ship, we might be able to break their formation." Drayton nodded. Do it. Focus all fire on that ship. With precise coordination, the Horizon's weapons zeroed in on the Crawl command ship. The barrage was relentless, and finally, the enemy vessel's shields buckled. A well-placed missile struck its engine core, causing a massive explosion that sent shockwaves through the Crawl fleet. The remaining Crawl ships faltered, their coordination disrupted. Seizing the opportunity, Captain Drayton ordered a counterattack. The Horizon's fighters launched, weaving through the enemy lines and wreaking havoc. Within minutes, the Crawl were in full retreat. Cheers erupted on the bridge as the last of the Crawl ships jumped to hyperspace. The victory was hard fought, but the threat was far from over. Captain Drayton turned to Tiara, who had watched the battle with a mixture of fear and awe. We need to keep moving. The Crawl will be back, and in greater numbers. We must reach your homeworld and fortify our defenses. Tiara nodded, determination replacing her fear. Thank you, Captain. With your help, we have a chance. As the Horizon continued its journey, Ethan and Tiara grew closer, their bond strengthening with each passing day. They both knew that the battles ahead would be even more challenging, but together they were determined to fight for a future where their peoples could live in peace. The fate of the Ralzar and humanity now rested on their shoulders, and they would face whatever came their way with courage and resolve. The Horizon pressed onward, navigating through the treacherous asteroid fields and uncharted regions of space. The journey was fraught with peril, but the resolve of the crew was unwavering. As they approached the Ralzar homeworld, the tension on board was palpable. Tiara, now fully recovered, spent much of her time in the command center, providing vital information about her people and their defenses. Her presence was a constant reminder of the stakes involved, and her insights proved invaluable to Captain Drayton and her team. One day, during a briefing with the senior officers, Tiara revealed a crucial piece of information that stunned everyone. The Crawl are not just interested in conquering us, Tiara explained, her voice steady but tinged with fear. They seek an ancient technology hidden on our homeworld, a weapon of unimaginable power. If they succeed in obtaining it, they will become unstoppable. Captain Drayton's eyes narrowed. Why didn't you tell us this sooner? Tiara looked down, guilt evident on her face. I was afraid. The weapon is dangerous, and I didn't want to risk anyone trying to use it. But now, with the Crawl closing in, we have no choice. We must find and secure it before they do. Ethan leaned forward, his expression intense. Where is this weapon located? In a hidden vault beneath our capital city, Tiara replied. It's protected by ancient defenses and known only to a few. My father, the leader of our people, can guide us to it. Captain Drayton nodded. Then that's our mission. We secure the weapon and use it to defend your world. As the Horizon drew closer to the Ralzar homeworld, the crew prepared for the impending confrontation. The ship's sensors detected a massive Crawl fleet amassing at the edge of the system, clearly preparing for an invasion. Ethan and Tiara spent long hours strategizing with the other officers, devising a plan to reach the capital and secure the weapon. The stakes had never been higher, and the fate of both their worlds hung in the balance. Finally, the Horizon entered orbit around the Ralzar homeworld, a beautiful planet with lush forests, towering mountains, and shimmering oceans. But the tranquility of the scene was shattered by the looming threat of the Crawl invasion. With the clock ticking, Captain Drayton ordered a swift deployment. Ethan, Tiara, and a small team of elite soldiers boarded a dropship and descended towards the capital city. The journey was tense, but their resolve was unshakable. As they touched down in the capital, the sight that greeted them was one of devastation. Buildings lay in ruins and the air was thick with smoke. The Crawl had already launched their assault, and the city was a war zone. Tiara's eyes filled with tears as she saw the destruction of her home. We must hurry. My father is in the central command center. He can lead us to the weapon. With grim determination, the team fought their way through the streets, encountering pockets of resistance from both Ralzar defenders and Crawl invaders. The battle was fierce, but they pressed on, driven by the urgency of their mission. Finally, they reached the command center, where Tiara's father, High Chancellor Aaron, awaited them. His eyes widened with relief and pride as he saw his daughter. "Tiara, you've returned," he said, embracing her. "Father, we need to secure the weapon," Tiara urged. "The Crawl cannot be allowed to take it." Aaron nodded. "Follow me, I'll take you to the vault." The team followed Aaron through a series of hidden passageways, eventually reaching a heavily fortified chamber. Inside, they found the ancient weapon, a device of incredible power, glowing with an eerie light. As they prepared to secure the weapon, alarms blared throughout the facility. The Crawl had breached the defenses and were closing in. Captain Drayton's voice crackled over the comms. "Ethan, we've got incoming. You need to hold that position until we can extract you." Ethan nodded, steeling himself for the fight ahead. "Understood, Captain. We'll hold the line." With the ancient weapon now in their possession, the team braced for the Crawl's assault. The battle for the Ralzar homeworld had reached a critical juncture, and the outcome would determine the fate of countless lives. The Crawl forces stormed the command center with relentless ferocity. Ethan, Tiara, and their team fought valiantly, using every tactic and weapon at their disposal to hold the enemy at bay. The ancient weapon hummed with energy, a silent reminder of the power they now wielded. Captain Drayton coordinated from the horizon, directing airstrikes and reinforcements to key positions. The human and Ralzar alliance was tested to its limits as they struggled to repel the invaders. Amidst the chaos, Ethan and Tiara found themselves fighting side by side, their bond stronger than ever. Tiara's knowledge of the terrain and Ethan's combat experience complemented each other perfectly, allowing them to outmaneuver and outfight the Crawl at every turn. As the battle raged on, a breakthrough came. Reinforcements from the horizon arrived just in time, turning the tide in favor of the defenders. The Crawl, realizing their imminent defeat, began to retreat, but not before issuing a dire warning. "This isn't over," snarled the Crawl commander, his voice crackling over the comms. "We will return, and next time we will bring the full might of our armada." With the immediate threat neutralized, the weary defenders gathered to assess the situation. High Chancellor Aaron addressed the alliance, his voice filled with gratitude and determination. "Thanks to our brave allies, we have survived this day," Aaron declared. "But the Crawl will return, and we must be ready. We must strengthen our defenses and prepare for the battles to come." Captain Drayton stepped forward. "The United Earth Forces stand with you. Together, we will develop new strategies and technologies to ensure our survival." The alliance was officially forged, and the Horizon's crew began working closely with the Ralzar to share knowledge and resources. The ancient weapon was secured in a hidden location, its secrets carefully studied by scientists from both species. Over the following weeks, the alliance grew stronger. New defensive measures were implemented, and joint training exercises honed their combat skills. The bond between Ethan and Tiara deepened as they worked together, their mutual respect and admiration blossoming into something more. One evening, as they watched the sunset from the top of a Ralzar tower, Tiara turned to Ethan with a smile. "You have given me hope, Ethan. Hope for my people and for a future where we can live in peace." Ethan took her hand, his gaze steady. "We'll make that future a reality, Tiara. Together, we'll face whatever comes our way." As the alliance prepared for the inevitable return of the Crawl, they knew that their combined strength and unity would be their greatest asset. The fate of their worlds was intertwined, and they would fight to protect it with everything they had. The peace that followed the initial Crawl assault was tense and fragile. Both humans and Ralzar worked tirelessly to fortify their defenses and prepare for the next wave of attacks. The alliance between the two species grew stronger, built on a foundation of mutual respect and shared purpose. As the preparations continued, Ethan and Tiara became key figures in the alliance. Their courage and leadership inspired others, and their bond became a symbol of the unity between their peoples. One day, as Ethan and Tiara were reviewing defense plans with Captain Drayton and High Chancellor Aaron, an urgent message arrived from a remote outpost. The Crawl were gathering their forces, preparing for a massive invasion. The time for final preparations had come. "We must take the fight to them," Ethan suggested, his voice firm. If we wait for them to attack, we'll be overwhelmed. We need to strike first and disrupt their plans." Captain Drayton nodded. "Agreed. We'll launch a preemptive strike on their staging grounds. It will be risky, but it's our best chance to gain the upper hand." High Chancellor Aaron added, "Our forces will support you. We cannot afford to be passive. The Crawl must be shown that we will not be intimidated." With the plan in motion, the combined fleet of human and Ralzar ships prepared for the assault. The mission was fraught with danger, but the stakes were too high to hesitate. As they approached the Crawl staging grounds, the tension on the horizon was palpable. Ethan and Tiara stood side by side on the bridge, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The Crawl forces were vast and well organized, but the element of surprise was on the Alliance's side. The initial attack was swift and devastating, catching the Crawl off guard. Human and Ralzar ships unleashed a barrage of firepower, targeting key installations and supply lines. The Crawl quickly regrouped, and a fierce battle ensued. The sky was filled with the glow of energy weapons and the debris of destroyed ships. The horizon led the charge, its advanced weaponry cutting through the enemy ranks. Ethan and Tiara coordinated the ground assault, leading a team of elite soldiers into the heart of the Crawl base. The fighting was brutal, but their determination never wavered. They knew that the outcome of this battle would determine the fate of their worlds. As they fought their way through the Crawl stronghold, they discovered a horrifying secret. The Crawl were not just seeking to conquer. They were preparing a weapon of mass destruction, capable of wiping out entire planets. "We have to stop this," Ethan said, his voice filled with resolve. "We can't let them use this weapon." Tiara nodded, her eyes blazing with determination. "We will stop them, Ethan, for our people and for the future we want to build." With renewed urgency, they pushed forward, determined to reach the weapon and disable it. The Crawl defenders were relentless, but Ethan and Tiara's combined skills and unwavering resolve proved to be an unstoppable force. Finally, they reached the weapon's control center. The room was filled with advanced technology and heavily guarded. Ethan and Tiara fought their way through, taking down the guards and securing the area. Working quickly, they began to dismantle the weapon's systems. The tension was unbearable, but they knew that failure was not an option. As they worked, the Crawl commander entered the room, a look of fury on his face. "You cannot stop us," he snarled. "Our destiny is to rule, and you are merely delaying the inevitable." Ethan and Tiara stood their ground, determined to protect their worlds. "Your reign of terror ends here," Ethan declared. In a final desperate battle, they faced the Crawl commander and his elite guards. The fight was intense, but their determination and unity carried them through. With a final decisive strike, they defeated the commander and secured the control center. As the weapon was dismantled, the Crawl forces began to retreat. The Alliance had won a critical victory, but they knew that the war was far from over. Back on the horizon, the crew celebrated their hard-won success. Ethan and Tiara stood together, looking out at the stars. "We did it," Tiara said, her voice filled with hope. "We stopped them." Ethan nodded, a sense of peace washing over him. "This is just the beginning, Tiara. Together, we'll face whatever comes next." With the Crawl temporarily driven back and their weapon neutralized, the Alliance had bought themselves precious time. They knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but their bond and determination would guide them through. The fight for their worlds was far from over, but with their united strength, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. They would stand together, no matter what. The aftermath of their recent victory brought a brief but much-needed respite to the Alliance. The Ralzar and human forces worked diligently to fortify their defenses and rebuild their cities. Morale was high, and the camaraderie between the two species had never been stronger. However, beneath the surface of this newfound unity, a shadow of doubt began to creep. In the heart of the Ralzar leadership, a high-ranking official named Tarek harbored ambitions that threatened to unravel everything they had fought for. Unknown to his peers, Tarek had been secretly communicating with the Crawl, driven by promises of power and influence. As Ethan and Tiara continued their efforts to strengthen the Alliance, they noticed subtle changes in the behavior of some Ralzar officials. Meetings became tense, and critical information was often delayed or withheld. Tiara, trusting her instincts, decided to investigate. Late one night, Tiara covertly accessed the communication logs in the central command center. What she discovered left her heart pounding. Encrypted messages between Tarek and the Crawl. The contents revealed plans to sabotage key defenses and provide the Crawl with crucial intelligence. Without hesitation, Tiara rushed to find Ethan. "We have a traitor," she whispered urgently. "Tarek is working with the Crawl. We need to act fast before he does any more damage." Ethan's eyes hardened. "We can't let him succeed. We need to expose him and secure our defenses immediately." They quickly devised a plan to confront Tarek and gather evidence of his betrayal. Enlisting the help of Captain Drayton and High Chancellor Aaron, they prepared to expose Tarek in a public assembly of Ralzar leaders. The next day, the Grand Hall was filled with leaders and representatives from both species. Ethan and Tiara stood alongside Captain Drayton and High Chancellor Aaron, ready to reveal the traitor in their midst. "Honored leaders," Tiara began, her voice steady and strong. "We have uncovered a grave threat to our alliance. One of our own, Tarek, has been colluding with the Crawl. We have the evidence to prove it." Gasps and murmurs of shock rippled through the assembly. Tarek, realizing his treachery had been discovered, attempted to flee, but was quickly apprehended by security forces. Captain Drayton presented the communication logs to the assembly, detailing Tarek's plans and the extent of his betrayal. "This alliance stands on trust and unity," she declared. "We will not tolerate treachery in our ranks." High Chancellor Aaron stepped forward, his expression a mix of anger and disappointment. "Tarek, you have betrayed your people and endangered countless lives. You will face justice for your actions." With Tarek's betrayal exposed, the alliance swiftly moved to repair the damage he had caused. Security protocols were tightened, and new measures were implemented to prevent any further infiltration by the Crawl. As the assembly adjourned, Ethan and Tiara found a moment to reflect on their victory. "We did it," Tiara said, relief evident in her voice. "We stopped him." Ethan nodded, a sense of pride filling him. "Together, we can overcome anything. We'll keep fighting no matter what." The revelation of Tarek's betrayal served as a sobering reminder of the challenges the alliance faced. With their defenses reinforced and trust restored, the Ralzar and human forces turned their attention to taking the fight to the Crawl. Intelligence gathered from Tarek's communications provided the alliance with crucial information about a key Crawl outpost, an installation vital to their war effort. Destroying it would cripple the Crawl's ability to launch further attacks, and buy the alliance precious time to strengthen their position. Captain Drayton convened a strategy meeting with her top officers and Ralzar leaders. "We have a unique opportunity to strike a decisive blow against the Crawl," she began. "This outpost is heavily fortified, but if we succeed, it will significantly weaken their war capabilities." Ethan, Tiara, and a select team of elite soldiers were tasked with the mission. They prepared meticulously, studying the outpost's defenses and planning their approach. The mission was dangerous, but the stakes were too high to ignore. Under the cover of darkness, the team launched their assault. The journey to the outpost was fraught with peril, as they navigated through treacherous terrain and evaded Crawl patrols. Their resolve never wavered, knowing that the success of their mission could change the course of the war. As they reached the outskirts of the outpost, Ethan signaled for the team to halt. "We need to disable their communications and power grid first," he whispered. "That will give us the advantage." Tiara nodded, her eyes scanning the area for potential entry points. "There," she pointed. "We can use that maintenance tunnel to access the control center." Moving swiftly and silently, the team infiltrated the outpost. They encountered several patrols but managed to take them out with precision and stealth. Once inside, they split into two groups, one to disable the communications and power grid, the other to plant explosives in key locations. Ethan and Tiara led the team to the control center, where they encountered heavy resistance. A fierce firefight ensued, but their training and teamwork allowed them to overcome the Crawl defenders. As they secured the control center, Ethan hacked into the systems, disabling the outpost's communications and power. "Communications and power are down," Ethan reported. "Let's move to the next phase." With the outpost plunged into chaos, the second team moved in to plant explosives. The Crawl, disoriented and unable to coordinate, were unable to mount an effective defense. As the team completed their mission and prepared to exfiltrate, alarms blared throughout the outpost. The Crawl had discovered the intruders and were closing in. "Ethan, we need to move now!" Tiara shouted over the din. The team fought their way back to the extraction point, their path blocked by waves of Crawl soldiers. The firefight was intense, but their determination and tactical prowess saw them through. Finally, they reached the extraction point, where a dropship awaited them. They boarded quickly, and as they lifted off, Ethan detonated the explosives. The outpost erupted in a series of explosions, sending debris and fire into the sky. Back on the horizon, the crew celebrated the successful mission. The destruction of the outpost dealt a significant blow to the Crawl, buying the Alliance valuable time to strengthen their defenses and prepare for future confrontations. Ethan and Tiara stood together, watching the stars through the viewport. "We did it," Tiara said, a sense of accomplishment in her voice. Ethan smiled, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "This is just the beginning. We'll keep fighting, and we'll win this war." With the success of the counterattack, the Alliance's confidence soared. However, the threat of the Crawl remained ever present. Reports indicated that the Crawl were regrouping and planning a massive assault to reclaim their lost territory. Amidst the preparations, Tiara made a startling discovery while studying ancient Ralzar texts. She found references to a hidden planet where a powerful weapon, capable of ending the war, was said to be buried. This weapon, known as the Eternal Flame, had been created by an ancient civilization and possessed the power to annihilate entire fleets. Ethan, Tiara, and Captain Drayton convened to discuss the implications of this discovery. "If we can find this weapon, it could change the tide of the war," Captain Drayton said. "But the risks are enormous. We don't know what defenses or dangers lie on that planet." Tiara nodded. "The texts are vague, but they suggest that the weapon is hidden deep underground, protected by ancient guardians and traps. It won't be easy to retrieve." Despite the risks, the decision was made to embark on a mission to locate and secure the Eternal Flame. A small, elite team was assembled, including Ethan, Tiara, and a group of the best soldiers from both species. They boarded a specialized ship, the Vanguard, designed for stealth and exploration. The journey to the hidden planet was long and perilous. They navigated through uncharted space, avoiding Crawl patrols and dangerous celestial phenomena. As they neared the planet, they encountered a series of anomalies that tested their skills and resolve. Finally, they arrived at the mysterious planet, a desolate world with a harsh and unforgiving environment. The surface was scarred by ancient battles, and the atmosphere crackled with energy. The team donned their advanced suits and began their descent. The entrance to the underground complex was hidden beneath a mountain range. After hours of searching, they found a concealed passageway, marked by ancient symbols. As they entered, they were met with a labyrinth of tunnels and chambers, filled with traps and guardians. The journey through the complex was fraught with danger. The team faced numerous challenges, from deadly traps to mechanical guardians designed to protect the weapon. Each step brought them closer to the heart of the complex, but also tested their limits. As they navigated the labyrinth, they encountered ancient holographic recordings detailing the history of the weapon and the civilization that created it. They learned that the Eternal Flame was designed as a last resort, a weapon of ultimate destruction meant to deter any aggressors. Finally, they reached the central chamber, where the Eternal Flame rested. The weapon was a massive crystalline structure, glowing with an otherworldly light. As they approached, a holographic guardian appeared, warning them of the weapon's power and the consequences of its use. Ethan and Tiara stepped forward, their determination unwavering. "We need this weapon to protect our people," Ethan declared. "We will use it responsibly as a last resort." The guardians seemed to consider their words before allowing them to proceed. They carefully extracted the core of the Eternal Flame, securing it in a specialized containment unit. As they prepared to leave, alarms blared throughout the complex. The Crawl, having detected their presence, were closing in. The team fought their way back to the surface, the weight of the eternal flame adding to their urgency. Once back on the Vanguard, they made a hasty departure, evading Crawl ships and escaping the planet's atmosphere. The journey back to the horizon was tense, but their mission had been a success. Back on the horizon, the crew welcomed the team with a mixture of relief and admiration. The eternal flame was placed in a secure chamber, its power a formidable asset in the fight against the Crawl. Ethan and Tiara stood together, knowing that the weapon they had secured could bring an end to the war, but also understanding the heavy responsibility that came with it. The fight for their worlds continued, but with the eternal flame in their possession, they held a glimmer of hope for a future free from the Crawl's tyranny. The acquisition of the eternal flame brought both hope and a renewed sense of urgency to the Alliance. The Crawl, aware of the weapon's existence, intensified their efforts to reclaim it. The horizon and its fleet became the focal point of the Crawl's wrath, and the Alliance prepared for an inevitable showdown. Captain Drayton called a strategy meeting with her top officers, ralar leaders, and the newly formed Eternal Flame Task Force. "We have the weapon, but we must use it wisely. The Crawl will come with everything they have. Our goal is to protect the Eternal Flame and repel the Crawl assault." High Chancellor Aaron added, "We must also send a clear message. Any further aggression will be met with overwhelming force. The Crawl need to understand that we are united and will not be easily defeated." Ethan and Tiara, now seasoned leaders, were tasked with coordinating the defense. They devised a plan to use the Eternal Flame as a deterrent, holding it in reserve while the combined fleet engaged the Crawl. As the Crawl armada approached, the Alliance forces took their positions. The tension was palpable, the fate of their worlds hanging in the balance. The first wave of Crawl ships entered the system, and the battle began. The skies lit up with the exchange of energy beams and missiles. The horizon, at the center of the Alliance fleet, unleashed its full arsenal, cutting through the Crawl ranks. The ralar ships, with their advanced shielding and weaponry, provided critical support, creating a formidable defensive line. Ethan and Tiara coordinated the ground defenses, ensuring that the Eternal Flame was protected at all costs. They moved swiftly between command posts, rallying troops and providing strategic oversight. Despite their preparations, the sheer number of Crawl ships threatened to overwhelm the Alliance. The Crawl commander, a ruthless tactician, focused his forces on breaching the defenses around the Eternal Flame. "Ethan, they're targeting the flame," Tiara warned. "We need to hold them back." Ethan's mind raced as he formulated a plan. "We'll set up a secondary defensive perimeter, redirect all available forces to reinforce our position." The fighting intensified as the Crawl pushed closer. The Alliance forces held their ground, but the cost was high. Casualties mounted, and the strain of the relentless assault began to take its toll. In a desperate bid to turn the tide, the Crawl launched a massive ground assault, aiming to overrun the defenses and seize the Eternal Flame. Ethan, Tiara, and their elite team found themselves in the thick of the battle, fighting hand-to-hand against the Crawl warriors. As the battle raged on, Ethan received a distress call from Captain Drayton. "Ethan, the fleet is struggling. We need to use the flame, or we won't hold out much longer." Ethan's heart pounded. He knew the risks of using the Eternal Flame, but there was no other option. "Tiara, we have to activate the weapon. It's our only chance." Tiara nodded, her eyes reflecting the weight of their decision. Together, they activated the Eternal Flame, its crystalline core glowing with an intense light. As the weapon powered up, a beam of energy shot into the sky, enveloping the Crawl ships in a brilliant display of destructive force. The Crawl fleet, caught off guard by the overwhelming power of the Eternal Flame, began to disintegrate. The Alliance forces rallied, pressing their advantage and driving the Crawl into a full retreat. The battle was won, but the cost was great. The Alliance had successfully defended the Eternal Flame, but the toll on their forces was heavy. As the survivors gathered to mourn their losses and celebrate their hard-won victory, Ethan and Tiara knew that the fight was far from over. The victory over the Crawl fleet was bittersweet. While the Alliance had successfully defended the Eternal Flame and repelled the Crawl assault, the cost in lives and resources was staggering. The mood aboard the Horizon was somber, as the crew tended to the wounded and honored the fallen. Ethan and Tiara spent long hours in the aftermath, working tirelessly to coordinate relief efforts and strengthen their defenses. They knew that the Crawl would return, and the next battle could be even more devastating. One evening, as they reviewed reports in the command center, Captain Drayton called them into a private meeting. Her expression was grave. "We've received intelligence that the Crawl are planning a final all-out assault," she began. "They're amassing their entire fleet for one last push to take the Eternal Flame. If they succeed, everything we've fought for will be lost." Ethan's jaw tightened. "What's the plan, Captain?" Drayton took a deep breath. "We have a plan to draw the Crawl into a trap. We'll use the Eternal Flame to lure them into a confined area where we can maximize its destructive power. But there's a catch. The weapon must be manually controlled from a forward position. It's a suicide mission." The room fell silent. The enormity of the task weighed heavily on them. Someone would have to stay behind to ensure the weapon's activation, sacrificing themselves for the greater good. Ethan spoke first. "I'll do it. I'll stay behind and activate the weapon." Tiara's eyes widened with fear and sorrow. "No, Ethan, there has to be another way." Ethan shook his head. "This is our best chance, Tiara. We have to stop them, no matter the cost." Captain Drayton placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "You're a brave man, Ethan. But this mission requires more than just courage. We need someone who knows the weapon and can handle the Crawl if things go wrong." Tiara stepped forward, her voice firm. "Then I'll do it. I know the Eternal Flame better than anyone. I can make sure it works." Ethan's heart ached at the thought of losing her. "Tiara, I can't let you do this." Tiara met his gaze, her eyes filled with determination. "We both knew this fight would demand sacrifices. This is mine to make." The decision was made. As the Alliance prepared for the final battle, Ethan and Tiara shared a moment alone. They stood together, holding each other close, knowing it could be their last time. "I love you, Ethan," Tiara whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I love you too, Tiara," Ethan replied, his voice breaking. "Stay strong. We'll win this war because of you." With the plan in motion, the Alliance set their trap. The Crawl took the bait, their massive fleet converging on the location of the Eternal Flame. Tiara, stationed at the forward position, activated the weapon, drawing the Crawl into the kill zone. The battle was fierce and desperate. The Alliance forces fought valiantly, buying time for Tiara to charge the Eternal Flame. As the Crawl closed in, Tiara initiated the final sequence. The weapon unleashed a torrent of energy, devastating the Crawl fleet. The sky lit up with explosions as the Crawl ships disintegrated. The Alliance forces pressed their advantage, driving the remnants of the Crawl into a full retreat. But as the weapon reached its peak, Tiara knew her time was up. She sent one last message to Ethan. "Thank you for everything. Fight on and remember me." The control room erupted in flames as the weapon's energy consumed it. Tiara's sacrifice had saved countless lives and ensured the Alliance's victory. Ethan, back on the horizon, watched in anguish as the weapon's light faded. He knew that Tiara's bravery and sacrifice had given them a fighting chance. With renewed determination, he vowed to honor her memory and continue the fight for their worlds. The loss of Tiara weighed heavily on the Alliance, but her sacrifice had given them the upper hand. The Crawl were in disarray, their fleet decimated, and their morale shattered. The Alliance seized the opportunity to launch a final offensive to end the war once and for all. Captain Drayton called a meeting of the Alliance leaders to finalize their strategy. "This is our moment," she declared. "The Crawl are weakened, and we must strike now to ensure they never threaten our worlds again." High Chancellor Aaron added, "We owe it to Tiara and all those who have fallen to see this through to the end. We will bring the fight to the Crawl homeworld and dismantle their war machine." The plan was audacious. The Alliance would launch a coordinated assault on the Crawl homeworld, targeting their central command and key military installations. The goal was to cripple the Crawl's ability to wage war and force them to surrender. Ethan, now a revered leader, took command of the ground forces. His resolve was unshakable, driven by the memory of Tiara and the promise of a future free from the Crawl's tyranny. The combined fleet, composed of human and Ralzar ships, set course for the Crawl homeworld. As they approached, the enormity of their task became clear. The Crawl defenses were formidable, but the Alliance was determined. The battle began with a massive space engagement. The Alliance fleet, using the tactics honed in previous battles, engaged the Crawl defenses with precision and ferocity. The skies lit up with the exchange of fire as the two forces clashed. Ethan led the ground assault, deploying his troops with tactical brilliance. They fought their way through heavily fortified positions, encountering fierce resistance from the Crawl. The fighting was brutal, but the Alliance's determination never wavered. As they pushed deeper into Crawl territory, they encountered the remnants of the Crawl leadership. The final confrontation took place in the heart of the Crawl capital, a towering citadel bristling with defenses. Ethan and his elite team fought their way to the central command chamber. Inside, they faced the Crawl High Command, including the ruthless commander who had orchestrated the attacks on their worlds. The battle was intense, with Ethan and his team outnumbered and outgunned, but their resolve and training saw them through. Ethan faced the Crawl commander in a final, desperate duel. "You've lost," Ethan declared, his voice filled with steely resolve. "Surrender now, and we can end this without further bloodshed." The Crawl commander sneered. "We will never surrender. Our destiny is to rule, and you are merely delaying the inevitable." Ethan's eyes hardened. "Your reign ends here." With a swift and decisive strike, Ethan defeated the Crawl commander, signaling the end of the battle. The remaining Crawl forces, seeing their leaders fall, surrendered. The Alliance had won. The Crawl war machine was dismantled, and peace was finally within reach. The cost had been great, but their victory ensured a future free from the threat of the Crawl. Back on the horizon, the crew celebrated their hard-won success. Ethan stood alone for a moment, looking out at the stars, thinking of Tiara and all they had sacrificed. High Chancellor Aaron approached him. "You did it, Ethan. We've won." Ethan nodded, a sense of peace washing over him. "We did it together, and we'll build a future where our people can live in peace." With the Crawl threat eliminated, the Alliance turned its focus to rebuilding and forging a lasting peace. The bond between humans and Ralzar grew stronger, their shared struggles and triumphs, forging an unbreakable alliance. Ethan and the surviving leaders vowed to honor the memories of those they had lost by creating a future where their peoples could thrive in harmony. The war was over, but their journey of unity and cooperation had only just begun. The end of the war with the Crawl marked the beginning of a new era for the alliance between humans and the Ralzar. The once looming threat of annihilation had been vanquished, but the scars of battle and loss remained. The journey to rebuild their worlds and establish a lasting peace was now the foremost priority. The horizon, now a symbol of unity and victory, returned to the Ralzar homeworld. The crew disembarked, greeted by a mixture of solemn reverence and hopeful celebration from the Ralzar. High Chancellor Aaron and Captain Drayton led a joint ceremony to honor the fallen and recognize the bravery of those who fought. Ethan stood at the forefront, his heart heavy with the memory of Tiara. Her sacrifice had not been in vain, and her legacy was woven into the very fabric of the Alliance's future. As the ceremony concluded, Ethan approached a memorial erected in Tiara's honor, inscribed with words of gratitude and remembrance. "We owe everything to you," he whispered, placing a hand on the memorial. "We'll make sure your dream of peace lives on." The months that followed were filled with intense reconstruction efforts. The combined resources and expertise of humans and Ralzar accelerated the rebuilding process. Cities were restored, defenses reinforced, and new technologies developed to ensure the security of their worlds. Ethan took on a new role as a liaison between the two species, working closely with leaders and engineers to facilitate collaboration. His first-hand experience in battle and deep understanding of both cultures made him an invaluable asset. Captain Drayton and High Chancellor Aaron spearheaded diplomatic efforts, establishing councils and treaties to solidify the alliance. The shared history of struggle and sacrifice created a bond that transcended cultural differences and fostered mutual respect. One day, as Ethan was overseeing the construction of a new joint training facility, he received a message from Captain Drayton. "Ethan, can you join me in the command center? There's something we need to discuss." Ethan made his way to the command center, curious about the urgency in Drayton's voice. When he arrived, he found her and High Chancellor Aaron deep in conversation, maps and data displays surrounding them. "Ethan, thank you for coming," Drayton greeted him. "We have an opportunity and a challenge ahead of us. The Crawl remnants, though leaderless, are still a threat. We need to ensure they can't regroup and pose a danger again." High Chancellor Aaron added, "We propose a joint task force to seek out and neutralize any remaining Crawl strongholds. We need someone to lead this effort, someone with experience and a deep understanding of our enemy." Ethan nodded, understanding the importance of the mission. "I'll do it. We can't let the Crawl rise again. I'll lead the task force and ensure they're no longer a threat." The task force, composed of elite soldiers from both species, was assembled swiftly. They embarked on a series of missions to track down and dismantle Crawl outposts, encountering pockets of resistance but ultimately succeeding in their objectives. Throughout these missions, Ethan's leadership and tactical acumen shone brightly. He led with courage and compassion, earning the respect and admiration of his team. The remnants of the Crawl were systematically eliminated, and the threat they posed was finally extinguished. With the Crawl fully neutralized, the focus shifted to exploration and expansion. The Alliance, now stronger than ever, set its sights on the stars. Joint exploratory missions were launched to discover new worlds and forge new alliances with other civilizations. Ethan found himself aboard the Horizon once again, this time as part of a mission of peace and discovery. The bridge buzzed with excitement as they approached a previously uncharted star system. "New beginnings?" Captain Drayton mused, watching the view screen. "This is what we fought for." Ethan nodded, a sense of fulfillment washing over him. Tiara would have loved this, exploring the unknown, building a better future. As the Horizon ventured into the new star system, the sense of unity and purpose among the crew was palpable. The Alliance had not only survived but thrived, transforming their shared struggle into a foundation for a brighter future. Ethan stood at the forefront of this new era, his heart filled with hope and determination. The journey had been long and arduous, marked by sacrifice and loss, but it had also forged unbreakable bonds and a promise of peace. As they explored new worlds and encountered new civilizations, Ethan knew that the legacy of their fight would endure. Together, humans and the Ralzar would continue to build, discover, and protect the future they had fought so hard to secure. The stars stretched out before them, a canvas of infinite possibilities. With the spirit of unity and cooperation guiding them, the Alliance ventured boldly into the unknown, ready to face whatever challenges and wonders awaited them.